Welcome to a special episode of Scoundrels, Inc. Today we're going to be talking about Tales from the Jedi from Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi.
Slow down, you don't get your points. Challenge.
From a pretty far out view. We're not going to go into super detail here, but we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about this.
But before you do, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. We also have a podcast feed that Frank's about to tell you about.
Yeah, well, we have a podcast feed. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, even Stitcher, wherever you find your podcast, wherever you if you don't want to watch us, you want to listen on the go.
That's what I would
subscribe to the podcast feed. We'd really appreciate it. Again, sub to whatever we have going on, social medias, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram,
Friendster, MySpace,
Facebook,
Twitch coming soon.
What, we really?
I don't know, maybe.
Why not?
Okay.
Hey, I think we landed it again.
Hey! 2 for 2.
Boo! And you too.
Not
Sorry
you,
to
not you.
All right, hit the logo.
Okay, so we're going to take this from a big overview here because I don't think we're really going to go episode by episode too much. First episode, we get Ahsoka. Then we get 3 episodes of Dooku. And then we get 2 episodes of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So let's actually skip that first Ahsoka episode.
I just want to say one thing.
Okay.
I love this origin story for Ahsoka.
Sure.
I think
so do I.
The stuff with the space tiger, whatever you want to call it, was great. I just love how it sets up.
Right. We're going to go back to the I want to go back to the origin story,
but
I want to talk to it. Talk about it during the Ahsoka stuff.
Roger that.
So we open up with 2 Jedi are dispatched to resolve a hostage situation on a distant planet where tensions are running high. We have Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan going to what looks like a medieval world.
It reminded me of the episode of Mandalorian the Jedi
with Ahsoka.
Yeah, with Ahsoka.
Yeah.
That town is what it reminded me of. Yeah,
absolutely. And they're dealing with a sort of there's a senator's son that's kidnapped and a semi-despotic senator that they ask, why can't you vote him out? And they're like, it's more complicated than that.
Yeah.
So we've got sort of a standoff with the senator's men, Qui-Gon and Dooku, defending the townspeople who have kidnapped the son. The son is on the side of the townspeople now because he's seen the reality of everything. And the episode ends with Dooku sort of snapping and Qui-Gon coming to the rescue to sort of pull his moral fibers back where they need to be.
Voiced by Liam Neeson's son, by the way.
Which super cool. And then we have, I don't know who voices, I should know who voices Dooku, but it's Yen Sid from Kingdom Hearts. Anyone wondering?
Hey, look at you. Didn't think you'd hear that on the show, did you?
No. What do you guys think? What's your big takeaway from this first episode?
I loved it. I've always wanted to see it. I've always seen fan art of people taking young Christopher Lee and making him in the Dooku outfit. So I like to see him younger. I love the young Liam Neeson too, and young Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon is probably one of my favorite Jedi in the whole saga. I've just always gravitated towards him. So to see him, and I like that his way of saving his master from making a mistake wasn't him jumping ahead of it, but like him knowing, like, let me bring the son out there to kind of stop that. I thought that was really creative storytelling and not just typical, like, him stopping him. So, and it's the beginning of, how I think that for Tales for me and the whole Dooku arc was showing, like, how does one respond to injustices in this world? Some people respond responsibly. Some people probably take it a little too far. And I think with Dooku, his intentions are pure. And I think that's what allowed him to be so susceptible to being seduced to the dark side by Palpatine. So to see the very early beginnings here, where he even thanked Qui-Gon afterwards, is like, "Oh, you're a much wiser man than I," which is a cool callback or call forward. Mm-hmm. I just think that. I really loved it. I love this first episode, how we get into that. And kind of the animation style too, if we're going to talk about it.
Gorgeous.
The wide shots in this show look almost like live action. So they are just really zeroing in on their animation. It makes me excited for Bad Batch season 3 or 2.
The wide shots are great. The environmentals are great. I don't like the texturing on certain smooth elements. I saw someone equate it to dry brushing. If you're a miniature painter or an environmental painter or something, you'd be familiar with dry brushing. It's essentially hitting the raised edge with a highlight without actually intentionally highlighting. Once I saw that, I had a hard time with the animation, but it is gorgeous. It is a step up from the Clone Wars. I do love sort of this whole idea that we get with the Dooku episodes, that it's dealing with the corruption of the Senate and the corruption of the Jedi and the corruption of the Republic as a whole.
Perfect timing for the release too, because you're seeing a lot of that in Andor.
Yeah.
Right. And quick note, it is Corey Burton.
Corey Burton, that's right.
Which I did know, and I
he's voiced him for a long time. And
he's voiced him for, he's been every voice of Dooku, and Christopher Lee. He is Christopher Lee's voice replacement. Period. End of story. In anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he also voices one of the Chipmunks traditionally, Chip and Dale, and Cad Bane.
So you're saying this guy is pretty talented?
He's very talented.
He's got them skills.
He's been in like a billion.
Yeah, that's great.
Cartoons.
No, he's great. He was great in this episode. And throughout these, I love that we got to see the dynamic between Dooku and Qui-Gon-Jinn. As you said, I agree. Qui-Gon is one of my favorite Jedi, just because he's
unorthodox.
Yeah, he's unorthodox. He kind of he follows not necessarily what the Jedi Council the Order would have you do, but he follows what he feels through the Force.
The will of the Force.
Yeah, the will of the Force.
He follows he traditionally follows the living Force. And that's one of the reasons why he puts so much stock in midichlorians, where other Jedi don't necessarily put as much stock into it as he does.
Yeah, I agree.
But
much to the fanboys' anger back in the times when the Phantom Menace first came out and everybody hated on the midichlorians.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing Qui-Gon and Dooku.
Are we talking about just that episode, or are we talking about their arc in full?
We're gonna. That's a great question. Building on the relationship between Qui-Gon and Dooku, we do see the relationship between Windu and Dooku and sort of them butting heads as Jedi Masters Count Dooku and Mace Windu work together to investigate the mysterious death of one of their own. So a Jedi Master is killed on Raxus Secundus.
How great is that line where Dooku says to Windu, he says, your strict discipline to the rules is both admirable but also infuriating. Such a hint to what's to come.
Mm-hmm. So a couple things with this episode. So we see them go to Raxus Secundus to deal with a
great name.
Well, we're going to talk about Raxus Secundus in a minute.
Love saying that name.
Do you want to say it?
No, I just like hearing it.
You like hearing me say Raxus Secundus.
I don't want to even try saying it.
Raxus Secundus.
So Raxus Secundus is the capital of the Separatists.
Right.
In the Clone Wars.
That's right.
So
that's home base.
Which we see him sort of build that here, right? So we find out pretty quickly, we get to see the sort of clash of wills between a strict traditionalist that is Mace Windu and sort of this loose cannon rebel with a cause of Count Dooku, of Dooku, Master Dooku, because he's not Count Dooku.
Okay.
He's not a count. It is kind of interesting that that everything calls him Count Dooku in the titles, but he's not a count.
Semantics.
Yeah, it's SEO.
So yeah,
I never liked that when it was first revealed, because I thought it was too much like Count Dracula, and they were trying to do an homage to him. Well, I know that's why.
He is a count.
Yeah, that was George's thing. Yeah.
What is he a count of? What is the name of the planet? It'll come to me.
Starts with an S, doesn't it?
It does.
Serrano.
Yep. Serrano. Shmono.
I'm retired.
That was a 5-pointer.
Champion.
So yeah, Dooku is a very, very interesting character. We find out that the senatorial guards were the ones that turned on the Jedi, hoping to strong arm the senator into doing the policies they wanted. Dooku and Mace react and fight the royal guards, or the whatever guards they are. And then Dooku has that wonderful conversation at the end, saying like, "Keep doing what you're doing, just be smarter about it."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this.
He to the prisoner. Yep.
What sticks out to you guys in this one? You take it away. What do you got? Your brain stop?
Frank, are you all right?
Yeah.
Coruscant to Frank. Coruscant to Frank.
I literally thought you just had I just thought you had a stroke right now.
Yeah. No.
I'm glad you're okay, buddy.
No, I think it was
Sully was about to give you mouth to mouth.
I'm waiting for the day.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, I think it was great to see this dynamic between Mace and Dooku because of kind of their ideologies and how they approach
being a
Jedi. And so when you have Mace was also kind of in Clone Wars and in the prequels, kind of a hard ass a bit, and you kind of see him and juxtaposed to Dooku, you're just like, man, Mace, he's all right.
What about that line from Attack of the Clones now? He says that's not his. Dooku wouldn't assassinate anybody. It's not in his character.
It's not his character.
Do you think that this episode
hubris.
strengthened that line,
That's
or do you
Jedi
think
hubris.
it weakened that line?
No, I think it strengthens it because there's one part I left out in our little quick synopsis because I was going to touch on at the end, but that's a great point to build on.
But also, I think that's what Dooku is also speaking to is that the Jedi are blind to
Sure.
what I'm trying to tell them.
They're blind to the corruption.
They're blind to corruption, and so
But
even
at the same
Mace can't even fathom a Jedi falling to the
But
dark
at
side,
the
which is so naive because plenty have and gone to the dark side.
This
It's
is
just-
such a
So
great
many
point.
have been redeemed, which we'll talk about one
Great
episode.
point for me to segue into the next episode, which I'm not going to do because I got more points on this one.
Okay.
So we see at the end that that Jedi who was killed, whose name escapes me, I'm sorry, get over it, was on the council. We see their funeral, and then we find out that Mace is replacing that Jedi. And there's kind of this moment.
That's right.
There's kind of this moment.
Love that moment.
There's kind of this moment of tension where Dooku's like, "Did you know?" And he said, "I was as surprised as you were." And he doesn't admit to knowing or not knowing, just says that he was surprised.
No, I feel like there's a line where he's like, "I heard just when you did just now."
No, he says, "I was as surprised as you were."
Yeah.
But I think that insinuates what Kevin's
Sure,
getting at. Yeah.
sure, but I also think it's also evading the question. And then Mace also brings up a good point where he says, "You went against the will of the council on this and attacked, provoked conflict."
Right. So what did you think was going to happen?
But
Yeah.
almost making the point that one of us could have been either one of us
Right.
could have ended up on the council at the end of this mission, and it was me, not you.
Yeah.
Right? So that to me does a great job of setting up the next episode, which features Jedi being disillusioned, being too cocky to believe that the Sith could return or that a Jedi could turn. We also get another Jedi Master leaving the council.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let me tell you about that storytelling first for a second. This reminded me of a novel called Plagueis, which I've talked about before.
Rise.
Plagueis, when I first read it, I had no clue that it would all of a sudden start dipping into during the events of the Phantom Menace. And straight, Plagueis is there with binoculars watching Qui-Gon tell Anakin about midichlorians. It gets that much into it. And so in this show, all of a
What
sudden...
a weirdo.
all of us... Yeah. But all of a sudden in this show, we are with Dooku, and then you see like, they're going to Naboo or whatnot, like... Or it's right out. Oh,
Well,
Qui-Gon's in the council talking about how they just fought a Sith Lord. You're like, oh my God, we're in the middle of Phantom Menace. And then there's that scene at the elevator. This is why I joked last week or whatever. Where I said, or I think maybe was it on the air? I don't know. Where I said,
I don't know.
Let's just say you're gonna have to edit a new Phantom Menace episode where we
Yeah.
plug these scenes right in.
Well, so this
you see
episode-
their last ever meeting, Dooku
Yeah.
and Qui-Gon.
This episode does so much to intertwine with the Clone Wars,
Yeah.
with Attack of the Clones, with Phantom Menace. It sort of
It
links,
does a lot in like 18 minutes.
In 18
It's
minutes,
crazy.
It's a love letter to the prequels.
Yeah, it's so good. We get this conversation that we're finding out that Qui-Gon encountered a Sith Lord, and the Council doesn't believe him, right? Because again, like you said, Mace's hubris.
Yeah.
And
Dooku would have
it's-
believed him. Well, Dooku
Yeah.
was working with one, but
Well, Dooku did,
I mean,
right. Dooku did believe him.
then
Well,
people
not
were-
only was he working with him, Dooku knows Maul exists, right?
Yeah, I think
got it.
that's how he finds out, right? Or does he?
No,
does he
because at
know
the end of the episode, he says, "You let Maul kill Qui-Gon."
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he was pissed.
That's right. That's right.
And people are having taking issue with
But-
like, oh, I thought he turned bad after, or at a much
Okay.
later time. It's like I always thought it was the death of
So,
Qui-Gon Jinn
no.
spurred him away, and that's why he became one of the last
Do you
20.
want me to cover that?
Yeah, I would like to cover because it didn't bother me. Any of this.
So Dooku does this episode most likely does not change canon in any way. Dooku in this episode is not part of the Jedi Order anymore.
He visited the temple just as like
Sure.
a guy just visiting.
It's established in canon that even after he left the Jedi Order, he was still in good standing with the Jedi.
So he can waltz into the library.
So that he can waltz into the library, because he didn't leave for negative reasons. He left because his public reason was because he had duties to Sereno.
You feel like still, even if you leave in a good, if you worked for the CIA, we mentioned last time.
Okay, this is not the CIA though. This is the Catholic
Jedi Temple has all of their secrets.
This is the Catholic Church.
True. Okay. Do you think the Catholic Church
Yes.
wouldn't change the codes on it so he couldn't access?
I do. But he also used Sivadius' code.
That's right.
He didn't use his own code. He used Sivadius' code. So, it is established that Dooku left the Jedi Order prior to this note. They don't bring that up in this episode because I don't think... We'll get to this a little bit with episode 6.
But we should mention he deletes Camino in this episode.
Right.
In these 18 minutes.
But this series doesn't really go into detail with a lot of things, and I think that's fine. And I think that's actually the problem with episode 6, which we'll get to. But
yeah, it's
there's
cool though
no
that
time.
Camino is deleted like the day before the kid and all of them leave for Naboo to help the. Right. It's just I loved it.
But it does line up. It does line up with the timeline.
I hope
there's
so. I'm glad.
there's
I
just
thought it was fine.
there's no time to explain like, hey, Dooku left the Jedi Temple, but Yoda let him keep his lightsaber, because when a Jedi leaves the Order, they're supposed to give back their lightsaber, and Dooku is allowed to keep his lightsaber. It's in Jedi Lost, which is an audio drama, very good. I didn't finish it, but it's good.
But this is probably my favorite episode of all of Tales. And
yeah,
we can talk about Yaddle too, about how cool it is. You like you said last week.
I said
it
how
became one of your favorite characters.
How 14 minutes made me fall in love with a character that I literally could not give two shits about before today.
Yeah.
Like to where the whole point of this character for the last couple years has been, oh, Yaddle and Yoda boned and made this is a fully fleshed out character. We see Yaddle
and Yoda boned and had Snoke, obviously. So
right. So I don't know. This is, Yaddle to me now feels very fleshed out. We have drive for her, especially because she goes, like, at the end we find out she left the council because she didn't agree with the council's decision making, and she also lost faith in the council and was just trying to get Dooku. I mean, let's get into the meat of the episode, right?
Yeah.
Qui-Gon dies. Dooku goes to meet with Palps. He's mad at Palps because Qui-Gon wasn't supposed to die.
Yeah.
He thought that he could bring Qui-Gon, which is interesting. Could he have brought Qui-Gon?
Let's have that discussion in a second. Ultimately, Dooku has to fight Yaddle because Yaddle follows them. Yaddle admits, I left the Order too, or the Council, not the Order.
Yeah.
I left the Council because they were wrong about you and Qui-Gon, and you're right.
Qui-Gon didn't have to die.
Right. Qui-Gon didn't have to die. Because ultimately, look, if we're on the Jedi Council, someone says, hey, there's a Sith Lord. I'm not going to go, okay, go investigate. I'll go, yeah, go investigate. We're coming with you in case you're right. What else are we going to do? Sit on our ass on our fucking cushy chairs?
Yeah.
Get fucking Yoda, grab a lightsaber. Mace.
Well, do you think Yaddle made a mistake by trying to... Do you think she believed too much in Dooku that she could, it wasn't going to turn bad? Because don't you think Yaddle should have looked at it and been like, okay, I'm going to go back and report this.
I think
then none of the prequels happen.
I think she did the Jedi thing. I think it was the Jedi thing.
She had the confidence that she could handle it.
Yeah. Because ultimately, I think up until the point where Dooku, shuts the door on Yaddle, literally.
Yeah.
Up until that point, I don't think Dooku was irredeemable. Right? Because Dooku ultimately is doing things for noble reasons. And that's
I don't know, because Dooku goes to Yaddle, he's like, so you heard everything? Oh, well, now you gotta go. So I think it leaves the door open a smidge in my estimation.
But Sheev is the one to push him there.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So and that's the thing. It's just like
he uses classic Palpatine tactics.
It's like poetry. It rhymes with the Anakin scenes with Mace, right? Like Anakin was not irredeemable.
It's the classic manual of how do you turn someone to the dark
right.
side.
Anakin was not irredeemable until the point where he sides with the Emperor over Mace.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing, right? It's showing the power of Sheev more than it's showing whatever. Kev, you had something.
I was just gonna say with Yaddle, there was a funny remember she gets slammed, and at first I was like, oh damn, like that.
That was
what
hardcore.
What a gruesome way to go.
I was like, damn, Dave.
Never seen that in a Star Wars movie before, right? Oh, you have.
We have actually.
In what movie?
Well, Return of the Jedi. It happens to the Rancor.
Yeah. Speaking more of my KOTOR episode 3.
Oh my god.
Legit have a scene, and I even subbed it out.
Go.
All right.
These guys aren't. Let me talk. I'm talking about my thing.
Mandalorian. It happens in the cantina in the first episode.
Can't talk about KOTOR on this channel.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not allowed to talk about KOTOR.
Cut in half, or more or less. Yeah.
Tell me all.
And never mind. I don't want to talk about it. But I will tell you about
Tell
a
me
meme that I saw.
all
where it
about
was a
your
picture of
movie.
Yaddle. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But when Yaddle picks up the door, gets slammed, and then she lifts up the door, someone had a tweet that said, "Me coming back to an old argument after I finally had a moment to come up with a good response."
That was good.
Thought that was brilliant.
That's really good.
All right.
The Yaddle too. People were talking about why doesn't she speak in reverse?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's some conjecture over this, and I haven't seen anything about this. I need to know what you guys mentioned this before the show.
Yeah. I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't either.
People care,
I don't either,
people
but I'm
don't care.
curious.
But people were always wondering why does Yoda speak in reverse? And there was an old interview, so it's not canon per se, but Frank Oz said the actual actor himself, whether he was just told, hey, create, sometimes actors are given the opportunity to create their own backstory. And so I think with this one, Frank said he either was told or he came up with the backstory that Yoda speaks in reverse because he was honoring his old master. So whoever Yoda's master was, Jedi master, who trained him 800 or 900 years ago,
it was
spoke in reverse.
Mr. Miyagi.
And I don't know if that's from a culture standpoint of something that they took from some cool culture back in the day where it's like, oh, you would honor who raised you by speaking like them or speaking
if you're raised like that throughout the Jedi Order, you're going to develop a certain
very much.
pattern.
Yeah, they could have gotten one of those like books on tape where you could learn how to speak regular.
Sure, but very much so. I think that that is true. That that a Jedi typically does honor their master to the point where like the reason Qui-Gon is so far apart from the normal teachings of the Jedi Order is because Qui-Gon was his master, right? And even to the point where like Anakin and Obi-Wan are from that lineage, right?
Yeah.
Because Dooku begot Anakin or begot Qui-Gon, Qui-Gon begot Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan begot Anakin. And Ahsoka is just as brash and
Yeah. It's that line.
Really, Luke Skywalker comes from a long line of Sith Lords.
Yeah.
Right?
Wasn't the other thing about Yaddle is that she's just not as old as Yoda. So
No.
she's not from like Yoda's era of when he was talking like that.
And even if you remove from that, right? Like Yoda's 900 fucking years old.
Yeah.
I don't care how eloquently you speak. 900 years old, or how long your race lives. 900 years old is a long fucking time,
You
man.
see a lot of shit.
You see a lot of shit. You really feel. Think about it this way, Kev. How many times did we lose knowledge training for the Schmodown because we filled our brain with other knowledge, right?
Yeah.
I never had that problem.
No.
No. I just don't keep knowledge at all.
You've never learned anything.
I've never learned anything. This episode, then you get the actual confrontation, right? With Dooku and Yaddle, and it's just a great, well, not great, but just a very moving sequence of events. Palpatine's like killer. If you want to pledge your loyalty, show me your loyalty to me. He's always Dooku even questions like, "Do you think I'm not loyal? Do you question my loyalty to you?" And Palpatine's like, "Always, dude."
Yeah,
we're Sith.
Well, Palpatine's all about. Palpatine's all about tests. We see
manipulation.
We see with Vader especially. And Maul, all of his 3 apprentices we've seen, there's a lot of examples of, in the comics and in the animated, we see the tests that he puts his Padawans through. If you want a great example, Lords of the Sith, is a novel taking place on Ryloth, dealing with Harrison Duelist's father.
Chan.
And Palpatine and Vader are crash landed on Ryloth, and it's just a huge test for Vader. Such a great episode, or a great novel. Go check that out. Overall, final thoughts on this one, Kev? Your favorite?
Yaddle, yeah, definitely. And Yaddle, what was really moving to me was that even Yaddle at the very end is still saying like, it's not too late. Like we could figure out a way to make this work for you. Like you've done a lot of wrong right now, but like we can still make it right. So even her very last moments, her dying moment, she still believes in Dooku, and Dooku is forced to make that decision. But you even see a little pity in Dooku's eyes before he finally says, like, I think he hates to have to do it to her because they both left the order. You know what I mean? Like, and it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was obviously the no point of return for sure, right? At that point where he kills Yaddle, and it's a pretty powerful sequence, and really just sheds a lot of light on the motivations of Dooku and who we meet in episode 2, and it's just like, oh, okay, this all, because you're like, where does this guy exactly come from? Oh, he's just a Jedi who fell to the dark side, not with Palpatine. Okay, but now you get all of this backstory of how he got to that point to turn to the dark side and why he was doing it, and it was just a very moving episode and very tragic. It was just tragic to watch. Yeah.
This episode is a great companion piece to, God, I can't remember the name of the novel. Do you know the Quinlan Vos novel, what it's called?
Oh, no, I don't.
Okay. So anyways, just Google Quinlan Vos novel because I can't think of the name of it right now.
That's weird because you have Google open on your...
I know, but I don't want to stop, the flow of the show.
I think Kevin's got it.
Kevin's got it.
Yeah.
I'm bringing it up, too, because there's a YouTube channel that does novels, and they like do audio dramas of it.
Oh, cool.
And they did Labyrinth of Evil, and it sounded really good. They got really good actors. Like, it's called Dark Disciple.
Dark Disciple.
And apparently they have some of Dark Disciple on there, which I never read, and I'm kind of excited to listen.
Check it out.
I think it's called Everest Productions. I'll figure out who they are, and by Monday or by
put it in the comments.
We'll put it in the comments. I'll put it in the comments.
So, Dark Disciple is about Quinlan Vos, who's a Jedi Master, falling to the dark side in order to assassinate Dooku.
Yeah, that's
during the Clone Wars, and
a little Reva-esque.
Little Reva-esque, but he's redeemed in the end to the point where we hear in Revenge of the Sith, Master Vos has taken Boz's pity.
Doesn't he fall in love too with?
He falls in love with. I just said her name in the last episode.
Yeah, you did. This is the thing where you have enough knowledge on one thing that you lose the knowledge.
Yeah.
I knew the actress Nika Futterman.
Nika Futterman, yeah. Asajj Ventress.
Yeah.
And
bald.
it
We
also
love bald chicks.
Right,
it's the redemption. It's the fall of Quinlan Vos and the redemption of Asajj Ventress. And it is honestly one of my favorite like Jedi focused novels in Star Wars. I tend to like the non Jedi focused ones. It's a great mirror to this because it's showing like there is a point of no return when a Jedi falls, and Quinlan hadn't hit that period, and you could find that point in this episode so well. Moving on, let's jump over to Ahsoka Tano. She needs to go through a rite of passage during her childhood, but experiences unexpected results. Those results are a tiger eating her
on the planet Sheely, by the way.
Sheely.
I looked it up. Sheely. Kind of a
Sheely,
cool
the
name.
homeworld of
Ahsoka
the
is from
Togrudans. So yeah, this episode, it's good.
That was my least favorite of all of them, and I don't mind
was it?
I was like, okay, cool. Like I liked it, but I think it's because I watched it in order that I was so excited to get to the Dooku stuff that I was like, all right.
I don't like the
Space Tiger and all that.
I don't like the order this is in. And I feel like it should have been one more episode for Ahsoka, and I'm going to kind of get into that when we jump to the next episode.
Talk about Ahsoka flexing though. You used to talk about that when we lived together.
Filoni flex.
The Filoni flex.
The Filoni flex.
And now this
Ahsoka,
one, she tames as an infant an entire
the
space
Filoni
tiger.
flex was in full effect. This whole series.
Yeah. I mean, I love Ahsoka. I love the character.
I love
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka. She's one of my favorite characters. Of all
I
time.
don't think
You do love Ahsoka.
I don't actually think that
After
this.
Come on.
That this series adds a lot for Ahsoka.
I'm sorry, say it again?
I don't think that this series adds a lot to Ahsoka for
you.
me.
Okay.
Because there's already so much Ahsoka.
There is.
That like the stuff that happens here almost feels inconsequential.
The one that I would say I learned the most about it, or I really liked, was more about what learning about Anakin's training methods and how like he was. It was like the movie. It was like watching that movie. The drumming movie with Miles
Whiplash.
Teller. Whiplash. It was Whiplash in space.
Is that the one where he's going deaf?
No, it's where he's a drummer.
That's Holland's
and
Opus.
J.K. Simmons is like just beating him and like hitting him and like, you're like, come on, get on beat and stuff. And like, not to jump too far ahead.
You're talking about Speed of Sound. That's the one you're.
Is that the one? Yeah, it's the drummer that goes deaf, right?
Right? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been meaning to watch that.
Yeah. That's with Riz Ahmed.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a pilot.
But yeah, I think the first episode was cool. And like you see it, like you don't see the Jedi actually come take her, right? So I remember thinking that was gonna happen.
because we see that. I think we see that in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I don't remember actually.
But it's cool. It's cool, and I get it. The Space Tiger and all that.
Plo Koon.
Oh, right.
That's
But
right. My thing is, does Ahsoka control animals like Ezra does, like later in
like
episodes?
Anakin does?
Yeah, a lot of
Like the Reek.
I mean, that's a
Calming
it's a very common Jedi trait. There's a name for it.
Yeah, forget what
Okay,
it is.
Qui-Gon. You just quoted Qui-Gon and didn't even realize it.
Did I?
Yeah, when he was talking to Shmi.
Very common
It's a very
Jedi
common
trait.
Jedi trait.
That's
You can see things before they happen.
Yeah.
It's a Jedi trait.
A lot of Jedi are depicted as having empathy for, or sympathy towards animals in a sort of psychic connection.
Yeah, seagulls and stuff.
Symbiotic.
Yeah, a symbiotic relationship.
Once those droids take
Where's Brandon?
Oh,
when you need him?
Brandon, we miss
Where's
you.
Brandon?
We
miss you, pal.
We miss you, Brandon.
come back
Oh, boy.
in one piece.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this.
I
episode.
will just say I like that it sets up where Ahsoka's I think resolve and where it comes from. Like you see her mother and how much that imprinted on her, and it says it informs so much about who Ahsoka is, where she comes from, and why she is the way that she is throughout her entire journey that we follow her in Star Wars.
What I liked about this episode most was the mother. I like this episode. I don't have a problem with this episode. Yeah. I just don't think, when you compare it to the Dooku episodes, it's just so much less.
Yeah, well, I'm not comparing.
Is there a method to the madness too? Why they started with Ahsoka, then they go to Dooku, then they go back to the training?
Because
with Ahsoka,
this was a story. This was a story of birth.
Yeah,
and the last episode is a story of rebirth. So
it's very deep. I like
there is a structure to the series that's kind of interesting.
But you didn't like the structure.
I did not like the structure. No.
Okay.
No, I didn't. Who voices the mother?
Oh, shoot. I knew this. I forget.
I retired.
It is Shiva Kamini Somarkanda Khan.
Yes.
Janina Gavankar.
Gavankar, yes.
Who's that?
Shiva Kamini Somarkanda Khan.
She is in... What do you? What's the
She
name of the video game?
she is.
Oh, I can't even think of any names right now.
She is.
I think we're tired. We've been talking Star Wars all day today.
I can't.
Versio.
Aiden Versio.
Yeah.
She is
Oh, yeah.
in Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Battlefront
Oh, cool.
And
Good for
Inferno
her.
Squadron. She's
a big Star Wars fan too. So
Yeah,
it's nice
she
to hear
plays-
I
that.
met her at Celebration. And what was the celebration?
Nice. Did you get a number?
2015?
2016.
2016?
Yeah.
Or
2017.
She plays.
Nice guy. You get her number?
I got a picture. I got a selfie.
Sweet.
She plays a special forces. A member of the Imperial Special Forces.
You got to play this game.
I
yeah,
love it.
you gotta. We're gonna.
Well, listen, I was so into that game, I pre-ordered the game, and then I actually read the novel that was
Oh, did
talking
you?
about Aiden versus
Oh, cool.
how Aiden versus
Yeah.
With the partisans and all that. So I was all in on that.
Yeah,
I like the story.
So I'm glad to see her get used again. I still really want to see her in live action, probably just as Aiden.
And
right?
get
in live
Ashley
action.
Eckstein a chance live action too. Give her a cameo for God's sake.
Yeah, I
Apparently
agree.
she's not in the Ahsoka show.
I agree that
No, I
she
don't
should
know.
be in there.
I don't know.
That's
Something's
one
going
thing,
on there. I don't
not Star Wars related, but like The Last of Us did really well because Ashley Johnson voices Ellie from The Last of Us, who you know from The Avengers, or
I'm retired. I can't.
the
think of
Seaver. She's the little girl in
I
The
lost all of
Seavers.
it.
What's that show called? Growing Pains.
names. Okay.
All right.
She's
get back to-
she's
let's
the
get back to
girl.
Tales.
She's the girl that Captain America saves at the end of Avengers.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So, but
she was on Saved by the Bell, the new class too.
Yeah, but clearly she can't play.
College years. Sorry.
Clearly she can't play Ellie, who's like a 14-year-old girl. So, but they have her and Troy Baker, who voices
In it.
the guy. They're both in the series, just not as their characters.
Get Eckstein in there. But back
Get Eckstein in there, basically. So yeah, I
the
don't know.
second Ahsoka episode.
Yes, practice makes perfect. Anakin puts Ahsoka through
Loved it.
rigorous training exercise to prepare for an uncertain future as Depa Billaba and Kanan Jarrus go off to do other things. Caleb Doom is in this episode.
That was cool.
My boy, Caleb Doom.
Yeah, you
also,
texted me. You were watching it, and you texted me, Caleb, or you wrote, you just wrote
Kanan.
Kanan. You wrote Kanan.
Did I write Kanan or Caleb?
You did Kanan.
Okay.
With a lot of exclamation points.
So, I love Caleb Doom, Kanan Jarrus, one of my favorite characters. Also, fucking Terra Sanube is in it.
Yeah.
Jedi Master.
Yes.
They changed his lightsaber color.
Love that. And that
did they?
he was in Obi-Wan, right?
He originally,
as one of the corpses.
he's frozen in Obi-Wan. He originally has a white lightsaber, but that was before they made it a big deal that Ahsoka has white lightsabers.
Right.
So they changed it to very light blue.
That's cool. That's very New Hope.
I thought of this episode and I thought of an old Muhammad Ali quote, and I have it here. He said once, I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion, Muhammad Ali. And I just thought that it was so brutal, the training. But what I loved about it is Anakin's so hard, and she gets up and she keeps getting knocked out. And then you realize at the end, he's like, listen, I was only doing that because I care about you, and I want to make sure that you can protect yourself. He was inadvertently helping her survive Order 66, which I thought was great. Like,
It's really cyclical. And it's so great that the first clone to hit her is Jesse, who's the one that starts, who like kind of leads Order 66 against her.
Yeah.
Wow.
The whole
Didn't catch that. That's awesome.
No, yeah.
So Anakin basically says that, like, look, these droids are not worth it. I can train you better. I can train you better than the Jedi can. It's Anakin's hubris really showing,
Which turned out to be true.
which is to an extent what he. Well, I don't think it's true. Well, it's just convenience kind of led up to that being true, right?
Sure. What I will say about this episode, I thought it was very moving, very touching. I just love the relationship between Anakin and Ahsoka. It's one of my favorite dynamics. And Rex and Ahsoka. Just one of my favorite dynamics
live action
in Star Wars. And to see Anakin prepare her for her to defend herself in Order 66 in this way, and
he doesn't even think of it at
this
first.
was such a Filoni flex, if you ask me, because it's just going back and explaining to all the haters that were like, how could Ahsoka do that on the ship? I feel like this was a great kind of like, this is what happened.
And you don't say that negatively. When you do the Filoni flex, you're not saying it in a bad way. You were always just like, another Filoni flex.
Yeah. This was my least favorite episode of the series.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's not bad by any means, but like, again, it shows me the least about the character they're focusing on.
Well, see, here's where I think you focus on the word tales of the Jedi. It's just a small
none of the Jedi had tails.
It's just
one of the Jedi has to have a tail.
Yeah, someone should,
None of
Coleman Trevor, he didn't have a tail. He had a dinosaur. He was dinosaur head.
But none of the Jedi in this series had tails.
But this is what I like about
That's disappointing.
I agree with
series.
I agree
this
with
is just
you.
a microcosm, a little peek into
I agree
a slice
with you.
of life.
I agree with you, and that's where my problem with the structure comes in. Because I feel like you set it up with these fucking kick-ass Dooku revelations, right? Every episode with Dooku got a revelation of who Dooku was. And that's sort of how they pitched this series, was showing more about who these characters are. I do really like this episode as a snapshot. I just think we could have gotten something else about a younger Ahsoka that wasn't in
Before
a period
Anakin?
of before Anakin to show who she was, or a scene of Ahsoka after Order 66 but before Rebels. Because
I have a feeling you'll probably get that.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Knowing Dave,
well, you do get
feel
that.
like
When she meets up with Bail.
Right. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I mean after that. I mean something after that, right? This episode's good. It's a great episode. But like, as far as like, did I need to see a whole episode of Ahsoka getting shot and tased? No, not really.
that's fine. That's
but
fine.
I do love how it links back to Clone Wars. It's definitely going to go in your Clone Wars supercut edit.
Yeah, especially the last shot. I probably wouldn't include all the training, but her with Rex going out onto the deck, I was like, oh.
Well, I did love.
God. You love that?
The one thing I really loved in this episode was the shift between them in that sort of barracks warehouse, and then when she wakes back up again, she's older. Rex is in a different armor, and they're on the acclimator, not acclimators, but the Venator Star Destroyers.
I think that story though informs us a lot about Anakin too. Like I just thought it made the
right.
Anakin character way more interesting to me than he already is. I mean, I love him so, but I just like realizing like, dude, he was so freaking powerful. Like, and it also just gives
smart
and like
and
so
charming,
good. And
handsome,
and then you just think about how Obi-Wan is forced when he's on that ship with Padme hidden in the trunk or whatever.
Also,
he's like, is he thinking, oh my god, I have to go fight this freaking madman that's kicked my ass in the flashbacks in Kenobi, and now I got to go take him down? Like it's like it just. I like that the more powerful you can give Anakin, more you can Filoni flex for Anakin too. Although Filoni flex is for Ahsoka only, and we'll get to the next Filoni flex.
Well,
in the next
this
episode.
actually, I don't think is a Filoni flex because this episode is specifically a former Jedi that has to deal with the astonishing, life-changing revelation that they cannot be who they are not.
They cannot be
someone they are not.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we find Ahsoka on a farm.
Unlike Obi-Wan, in a sense.
Obi-Wan.
As we saw in the Obi-Wan series, where he was...
I have not heard
where
in
he
a
was
long time.
turning that off, but Ahsoka, when called upon, was ready to act.
Yeah.
You know.
So she saves a girl.
Kaden, is her name Kaden in the movie too, or in the show?
Nope.
Before we get into all of that, because there is
certainly isn't.
But I this was my favorite episode of the series.
This episode was very good.
Okay, so your favorite was
my favorite.
We'll talk about it at the end. Actually,
my favorite is episode 4 of the Sith Lord.
Same with me.
Which is yours, and yours is this one.
This just epitomizes who Ahsoka is through and through.
Second, by the way, I have a lot of problems with this episode. My second favorite episode of the series.
Okay. Yeah, I understand the discourse around this particular episode. We'll get into that. But I thought this episode made me love Ahsoka even more. I mean, all these episodes of her just further heightened my love for this character.
Remember when you guys all freaked out at Celebration thinking that Revan was in the show?
Well, because the
mask
blurry
looks
shot,
of the sixth brother.
We don't know that he's the sixth brother. That's a whole can of worms.
He was the sixth brother.
Nope, never credited or called the sixth brother.
We don't know.
We don't know who he is. We don't know.
All I know is he ended up being a little bitch.
He stole the sixth brother's helmet and was like, "Hey, I can go do it."
We don't know what the sixth brother's helmet looks like. We don't know. We don't know what the sixth brother looks like, and they don't ever name this Inquisitor, so we don't know. They just
call him. It's just Inquisitor,
right? Which go with me here. That's a positive for now.
Sure.
So, before I get into that, Kevin, in order for me to talk about this episode, I got to talk about all that. So, Kevin, what'd you think of it?
Well, I came from innocent eyes where I didn't know about the book, and I know you guys are going to get into that in a second. So, I enjoyed it thoroughly, but that's because I didn't have expectations going in. I didn't know about. Someone told me afterwards. I had seen that people on Twitter were upset about it, and I thought they were upset about the timing of Dooku. Mm-hmm. So I remember liking someone's tweet, like defending.
Oh, this was the Knapsack tweet.
Yeah. I just was like, oh yeah, amen to that, because like Knapsack was talking about canon, and I think he still was talking about the Dooku thing.
He was.
Yeah.
But then other people were like writing under it about what you guys are about to talk about, and I was like, oh god, I don't support that. I would support any character of that in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. But so for me, watching that show without that, I could see why someone would be watching that and being like, oh, what are you doing? What? Like literally having such a departure that would like bum me out too. So watching it with the eyes of like ignorant eyes, I think it would be, of me just not knowing about the novel, I thought it was good. And then when someone told me that no, that's in the novel, and they like had such a departure, I was kind of shocked, to be honest.
Yeah. Frank, you didn't read the Ahsoka novel?
I did not read the novel, so when I was watching the episode, I had no idea that there was changes being made and whatnot. And
they weren't haystack anymore. It wasn't hay. It was something else. That's why everybody.
It was machine parts.
Yeah, that's why people were mad. It was machine parts, not hay.
In the again, I really like this episode. I love the design of the Inquisitor.
Yeah, he's really cool.
Fucking
really cool
bitching with that Raven vulture helmet. I like the pacing of the episode. Actually,
I like the way Ahsoka took him out. That was
very like
awesome.
Old Obi-Wan with Maul. Like,
right.
Not every duel has to be long.
Also,
and
it does a great job of showing something impressive with the timing of the episode, because these episodes are all around 14-15 minutes.
And I love, by the way, that the guy that turns on him then is like, looks up like, I thought you were going to help me out. And like,
he's like, no.
It's like,
and
that's the reality.
Again, it's showing, kind of feeds into the Cyril Karn stuff in Andor, right?
I don't care about you, buddy.
Yeah.
I don't care.
That's so true.
Okay, so in the Ahsoka novel, she runs off from she fakes her death on Mandalore, not
Right.
somewhere else. So this is the thing: the Ahsoka novel's already kind of been retconned, which is a bit odd, but it's fine because what was retconned previously was not a problematic retcon, and it did more to enhance the character and not detract from the complexities of the character. This episode does a great job of detracting from the intricacies of the character. Now, I am very on the fence about this. I'm conflicted about it. If you want a good discussion on the actual issues here, because this is a representation issue, go look up That Gay Jedi on YouTube. He's part of the Pink Milk podcast. He has a great video specifically on this episode. If one of us remembers, we'll link it in the comments.
Absolutely.
Or
It'll be you can find it the link.
I
in the cards
retweeted it a couple days ago, so go check that out. Actually, it'll be a full week by the time this goes up. But he does a great discussion on the actual issues from it, and from a very neutral standpoint. He's not angry. He's not pro the episode. He's not anti the episode. Just a very neutral standpoint, and he gets all his point across.
He just lays out.
He lays out everything.
Yeah, which I thought was a great video as well.
I haven't seen it.
Alex and Molly also do a very good job over on Star Wars Explained about breaking it down and sort of the weirdness of it. In the first probably 20, 30 minutes of their breakdown of Tales. Go check that on their YouTube channel as well. That Gay Jedi is also going to mention that in his video. So I would start there, and he'll put the link, and the link to that is in his video.
Has
so
Disney addressed
just follow
it?
the video train.
Have they
no.
said anything?
No, they have not.
Nah,
So here's the
say
issue.
something.
I'm gonna give a brief layout of the Ahsoka novel, just so you know what we're dealing with. Ahsoka runs off. She becomes a mechanic, rhyming with her master, which I thought was very good.
That's cool,
right? Because if you're Anakin Skywalker's Padawan, what regular day job are you going to do? You're going to be a mechanic, right?
He was probably having our fixed droids.
She meets a youngling with force sensitivity.
Hit the nose.
Has a run-in with an Inquisitor, runs off to another planet, meets a pair of sisters who sort of start their own pseudo-rebellion. And then it has to do with her kind of planet hopping between those two planets. One of them is a farming planet where the two sisters are. She does reveal her force powers to one of the sisters in order to save their life. And that sister, whose name you said the name earlier, Caden, thank you. And the other sister starts with M, but I cannot remember her name.
Maiden.
Nope.
Caden and Maiden.
Nope, it's not.
I'm glad I didn't write that.
No. So Caden and her sister are both women of color, and Caden is implied or shown to be queer, most likely lesbian or bisexual. Professes her love to Ahsoka. She says, the quote is, I could literally kiss you right now. Ahsoka definitely deflects that a little bit, which is fine. That Gay Jedi has a good theory on that. I'm going to let him go into that. But
isn't there an interior monologue from? Because the only thing I saw when I was looking it up,
there is
she
somewhat
says,
of an interior.
She didn't know how to process those feelings, but she didn't have time for that right now anyway.
Which that's kind of the
not
issue
saying
with
it yet,
Ahsoka is Ahsoka has never been in a situation where she's had to have processed those feelings, whereas like Anakin was older going into the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that's sort of the landmine there is those two sisters were replaced by a white presenting sister and brother that are not named in the credits even. They're like unnamed farmer or something in the credits. They're not named in the credits. So you have two characters of color, one of them being queer, being replaced by white presenting characters. And it also takes away, and that's one issue. The other issue is that it takes away a lot of the complexities of what Ahsoka actually went through there. So it's
what befalls of the sisters.
Same deal. They get on the ship with Bail.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's the same exact deal.
Because I was trying to think like, maybe they're supposed to try to benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're different characters.
Well, so the benefit of the doubt is that no one in the episode 6 is named. Which is why I said it's important that we don't know that's the sixth brother, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to headcanon this away, this is a separate event.
Just very similar.
Dave Filoni has said it's the same event.
did?
But
same
if
story.
yeah.
Why
I
would
saw that
they?
quote.
Okay, so why would they decide? There's so many things they could have done.
Most
And
likely
just create a new little mini storyline. Why would you do
most likely it's a time thing, and most likely they didn't take into account the Earth skin tones of.
But I'm just saying, why not pick another? Just create a new scenario instead to tell the same point.
Because the story that is told in the Ahsoka novel is based on Filoni's notes. This episode is Filoni's notes, right? So, and again, I can't answer this, per fact, because Filoni has not said anything about it. No one at Disney said anything about it. So I think it's I don't want to go too far into, assigning intention to anything. I'm going to let others do that. Go check out That Gay Jedi's video. Those are my sort of hangups with the episode.
They're fair.
I encourage you to go read the Ahsoka novel, or better, listen to the audiobook narrated by Ashley Eckstein.
No way.
So, narrated by the voice actress of Ahsoka. It's very good. It really reminds me of some of the old Legends stuff in a way. The storytelling and the pacing of it. I haven't read it in a long time. I've downloaded to re-listen to next week, but we'll get to that. So yeah, that's sort of my issue. I'm sorry to get on the soapbox there, but I do think people need to understand where some of the issues lie with that episode, as far as like why I think it's a good episode, but it's not necessarily all positives. But that's why I also said earlier, like, it not being the sixth brother is sort of important for people to be able to headcanon that. If they want it to be the sixth brother, great.
And
the other thing, this episode does hit most of the other points that are relevant to Ahsoka, right? Like, this episode is the way I was talking to my buddy Alden about it, the way Alden put it was, think of this as a poem about the story, right?
There you go.
It's the really compacted Spark Notes. And that's most likely why they didn't just go to the book and adapt, or why Filoni didn't just write a full other story, is because we're limited on time here. Speaking of limited on time, let's wrap up.
Can we just say one more thing about the episode on a lighter note, but not lighter, but on a dark note? It's the first time we see animated Padme dead. Think of it, like you.
Yeah,
like,
whereas all the other times where we could have.
I'm just saying.
I will say.
Wait, hold on.
I did.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say
No.
I appreciated that scene.
Well, I didn't. I don't mean to say that it's dark in like a entertaining way. I'm just saying, when Order 66 happened, we were always like, "What's Order 66 like during the animation with the animation?" And then we have this one where you see Padme, and it's like the animated Padme that we're used to from the Clone Wars. Now in this position of being
this is almost the first time we're seeing a direct scene from another angle. In animation.
And
I like that.
I was like, oh, this is really it. It makes sense that Ahsoka would show up to this funeral for Padme.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what you got to do, buddy?
What?
You got to add it to your cut, buddy.
Oh,
you got to add it to your 5-hour version.
I love the line where Bale's like, you shouldn't be here, and she said, "She was my friend."
They both
like.
were.
You can't tell me I can't be here.
Yeah.
Also,
So good.
Appreciated Mon was in the crowd too.
Yeah.
Next
So
to Bale.
like they
Right
did a
next to
lot
Bale.
of cool, touching moments like that. That just wasn't. It wasn't like the overall story of that scene like needed that stuff, but it's just like, oh, this would fit in this, and it does pack a more powerful punch when it relates to the character of Ahsoka, because it's like, yeah, Ahsoka knew Padme pretty well.
If anything,
and
that scene is the one that tells me the most about Ahsoka.
yeah, I mean, sure. Again, this whole episode, this is why it's my favorite, because it just informs so much of who Ahsoka is through and through, with the retcons notwithstanding, and all that. I was not up to date on all that stuff because I had not read the novel, and so when you watch it just as the episode as it is, I think it's a great episode. That's why it's my favorite. But speaking to the differences between the novelization and what's shown here in the episode, it is a big bummer, and I just have a big question of why. Why was it done that way?
Right.
And we won't know until anyone
probably
says something, and we probably won't.
Probably will never know.
We
Yeah.
probably won't.
Bale communicating to Ahsoka too, while he was in the presence of the stormtroopers, was good. It's a nice little touch. And then he's like, "You can call me anytime." And then the stormtroopers look at each other
like, what?
That was like a nice little moment.
That was sort of the slapstick Star Wars that we get out of Rebels and Clone Wars in some ways.
A little bit of
that I do appreciate, and that was kind of one of the few times we got that in this series, which was nice to see.
So your favorite episode
is episode 4, the Sith Lord,
and your least favorite episode
is
the training one.
Probably episode 5, the training montage.
It's bizarre.
But episode 1 might be I don't know.
So your favorite episode?
My favorite episode is
episode 6.
Episode 6.
Least favorite?
Resolve. And my least favorite, I couldn't tell you.
You got to pick one.
You got to pick one.
Which one do you like the best, the least? Which is your favorite, least one? What's your what's your favoriteest,
Probably
but less favorite than the other favorites?
Episode 3.
Episode 3.
Yeah.
That's
Mace and Dooku investigate.
I'll go that way. Yeah, and mine would be, my favorite was 4, the Yaddle's big coming out party, and then
Yaddle's big day.
The first one, I think the first one just suffered because it was that night after I watched Andor, and I was like, I got to get to the and like I didn't fast forward. I thought about fast forwarding, but then I would have to be honest with you, and if I'm gonna give you shit about skipping the intro, I cannot skip an episode.
Wait, you see.
I did not skip it.
Skipping an episode.
Thought about it, but then the ghost of you right here. You plopped in right here, and you're like,
but
are you going to skip an episode? You can't skip an intro.
Here's the thing, though. If you skip that episode and go back to it,
yeah,
it's fine. Which is what I did with the intros.
You go back to the intros afterwards.
Yeah, because I watch it the next day. When I'm watching it at midnight, I don't want to, I ain't got time.
But yeah, overall, loved it. Loved the series. Loved the animation. It's I was happy with it. I didn't think I wasn't that stoked about it. Like when I first heard about it, I never watched, by the way, Star Wars Visions, so I know I need to watch some of it.
Well, you should also
this is great.
Also shout out. You should go check out Star Wars Forces of Destiny.
Oh, those are cool.
Which are little 2-minute.
Yeah.
They're little 2-minute shorts focusing on female characters of Star Wars. You get how Leia gets her dress on Endor. They're like these little short sort of side stories. They're all like 2 minutes. They should all be on YouTube.
They're on the Disney Plus app.
And these remind me. Oh, they are. Okay, cool. This series reminds me of that series, just a little longer.
Yeah.
Okay. To lead us out, what do you want to see in the next Tales from the Jedi, and do you want to see Tales from the other things?
I would say Tales from the Sith would be my thing.
Okay.
Now, and let's get a cat. I think did I tweet it, or I don't know. I told someone. I'd love to get a Cad Bane, not Cad Bane, sorry, Darth Bane, or I mean, obviously, my love for Revan, a Revan short, how he got the mask, which is, if you read the comics and the canon, Revan takes a mask from the Mandalorians, the very ones that he's fighting.
You don't cover that in your movies?
In the prequels, well, I can't tell you now, but in the prequels, we haven't gotten that far. But in the prequels, we have a flag. Oh, you're making fun again. This guy,
yeah.
never ending battle.
I mean, I love you, but
yeah, you just don't care about my KOTOR movies.
No, I do. And maybe make them a little shorter.
You don't care about cats either.
What? Oh yeah.
That's a
okay,
callback.
Sure,
Only
great,
true fans.
wonderful.
But yeah, I definitely enjoyed the series as a whole, and I would love to see Tales of the Sith. And I think you can have a cool story with Palpatine and Maul, maybe how they first meet.
What other 2 Jedi would you want to see in Tales from the Jedi?
Oh, if we were doing if we're doing Sith, they're doing Jedi. So someone you'd want to flesh out, huh? Coleman Trevor, the greatest dinosaur Jedi of all time.
Great choice. And the other one?
I would say Reva.
Reva?
Yeah.
Okay. What other Tales from series
I like love for
would you
Reva.
want?
Yeah, I think Tales of the Sith would be really interesting. I'd be up for that. And if they want to do more Tales of I hope
Tales of the Bith?
Tales of the Biff.
No.
Tales of the you do the 3 episodes of Figure and Dan and 3 episodes of Max Rebo.
Yeah, there it is.
I want the 2 Jedi I want to see are Ben and Leia.
That'd be cool. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be really
cool. I hope they dive into the Ben.
Or Ben and Stick Boy. Broom Boy.
Stick Boy.
They finally the comics showed Ben's fall and how he met Snoke, like early conversations with Snoke and early with the Knights of Ren.
That'd be cool.
I just would love to see that. I wish I was hoping they would have done a novel for that, not the comics. But I breezed through the comics. Or even it would be nice to see that.
I would do.
Timothy Chalamet can play young Ben.
Timothy Chalamet as young Ben.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Winter Soldier is or
Sanders,
CGI Luke.
Yeah.
Or I would do Ben and Luke. Do 3 episodes of Luke before
cool.
he gets Ben. because there's
and probably tie in thematically with whatever you.
There's like the Legends of Luke Skywalker or something. There's a little anthology book they put out.
Yeah.
Could tell some stories from that, and then do Ben.
I would like actually Tales of Rogue Squadron.
Tales of Rogue Squadron would be good, or Tales of the Droids.
Or George, do them all.
You can do
Tales of the Grunts and get a couple
Troopers.
Tales of the Gonks.
Gonk.
Gonk.
Brian,
just do a whole episode of. Do you know what a Gonk droid? What its function is?
Yeah, it's a battery.
It's battery. So I just want a whole episode of a Gonk sitting in a corner, people
stuff.
plugging stuff into him.
And it's just like a water cooler.
It's a time lapse. It's a time lapse of someone like walks over to the Gonk, plugs something in, time passes, walks back over, unplugs.
Yeah. Hear random conversations. Just,
all right. Well, kind of like the Gonks, I'm running out of my batteries. So if you like this video, subscribe to the channel. Leave some. What Tales from? Do you want to see? What 2 Jedi do you want us to focus on? Check out our Instagram, our Twitter, and our TikTok. TikTok. And if you don't want to look at our faces or my beer gut or any of us, Kevin's Rams hat. Check out the podcast feed, which you can find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that stuff. Whatever podcatcher you use, it's probably there because that's their job, is to catch our pods. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you this Thursday. We'll be doing another episode for Andor. Go watch Andor. Let us know what you think. See you soon.
Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.